Look, this is a subject that's somewhat been done to death by conservatives, and there's a reason for it, and I'm going to try today to get this reason out. And the idea is taxing the rich. That's what I want to talk about today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Sunday the 30th of May of 2021. Again, today we're going to talk on taxing the rich. Thank you if you're here on Rumble, on the podcast, or on YouTube, or for that matter, anywhere else. As I say, look, I'm going to read my notes, in fact. Let me go ahead and read my notes and get that out of the way. I'm somewhat hesitant to talk about this subject at all. So many have made it plain what's actually going on where taxation of the wealthy is concerned. It's almost certain I'll just be repeating talking points in what I say. Now, I want to be clear. This is not in my notes. Those talking points are not something that I repeat just because I'm parroting what other people say, but because I believe them. Okay, so don't think that when I say I'll be repeating talking points, what I'm saying is I don't believe what I'm telling you, because I do. Here's one unique point, though. I'd like to bring forward the idea that if you make less than, say, $31,200 a year, just over $15 an hour, I would ask you to review your tax return and your W-2s to see if you actually ended up paying any tax at all. And I'm going to make you a bet, right? Fact is, though I'm at double that, my taxes are comparatively quite low, which means that yours probably are virtually non-existent if they're there at all. As such, I'd be surprised, as I say, if such folks paid much of anything. And like I say, mostly I think really not at all. Here's my question. Other than taxing those who can afford it, who can or should be taxed if they can't afford it, right? My point is that would be the folks who currently are being taxed. That's who that would be. That's what my point is here. If you're low income, I'm betting you don't pay a penny in tax. If you look at the benefits and various kinds that you get, stimulus checks aside, that's probably the case. In fact, the possibility is at the end of the year, money comes to you that you didn't pay. You get earned income credit, for example. That's the case. Okay, I'm done with my notes, so let me get discussing this. Again, if you look at who's being taxed, you have to realize a few things. One, those who aren't making anything, if they're paying anything in tax, they're not paying much, if at all, right? Those who are making very little, certainly less than $20,000 a year, are probably getting every penny back in tax that they pay. And the truth is that 31,200 number, all of those people are probably getting basically most everything they get back, right? And particularly when you consider that things are being done on a percentage basis. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. What is, let's say, 10% of say $20,000? It's $2,000, right? What is 10% of $250,000? $25,000. If a person, and that person who's paying making $250,000 is not paying 10%. They might pay 10% on the first X amount, right? Say $30,000 or $50,000, but then the rest of it is actually taxed at a higher rate typically. That's what you're going to find. I don't know if it's at $250,000 or where that actually happens. I'm pretty sure it's fairly low, since I know, never having been anywhere near $250,000 in my earnings in a given year, my taxation went up substantially as I got over $100,000, which I've only done once or twice in my life, to be quite frank with you, and it's not something that I really aim for the most part. But the point is, what that means is that people at very low income levels are likely paying very little taxation. And that's not really surprising, since taxation is in its very nature a redistribution of wealth. You may argue to the contrary, but that's exactly what it is. I've said this in previous videos, and I'm going to say it again today. When a person has enough money to pay for their house, to pay for their food, to pay for their cars, to pay for car insurance, to pay for water, electric, gas, whatever it is that they happen to have in terms of expenses, and to have discretionary cash to be able to do the things that they want, just how much need is there that any money go to them for any kind of social program? Now, you can argue for infrastructure, but the fact is even people riding buses typically use the roads, right? Even people below the poverty level might write letters or get packages, so the post office, if they're being paid by federal monies. So really the question really comes about is when you start talking about social programs and insurance and medical care and so forth, which by the way are social programs. But the point is, in each of those cases, if you look at the person who's over a certain monetary amount in terms of their earnings every year, they have no use for that stuff at all. It doesn't mean anything for them. So where is that money going as far as they're concerned? To others, because they're not getting it. They're not getting that money, okay? It doesn't come to them in any sense. They end up paying it out to somebody else. Now, you can make the argument that they would have had to pay it anyway because they would have had to help those people if they were had a heart or whatever. But the fact is, if I found somebody who needed my money or some other part of my largesse, and I decided that I was going to help that person out, I almost never would take the same tack that people in government take with regard to that, and the overhead that exists in that world as well makes it even worse. So lots of times people will say, oh, this person is needy, and I'll go, no, that person is not needy. They're able and they're not working. If they're needy at all, it's not at least in part because they refuse to do for themselves. Okay? You can argue that they might have mental problems or whatever. Okay, granted. Okay, but the trick then is to try and get those people in places where mental problems, physical problems or not, they actually take care of themselves. And one of the reasons for that is, what happens if I'm a benefactor to somebody and then I die? What happens? Okay? Suddenly they don't have their benefactor anymore. If a person can't take care of themselves, then they're going to have problems. All that has to happen, the same in government programs as in coming to me as a benefactor, all that has to happen is the government has to say, yeah, we really don't count you needy, and you're done. Think that doesn't happen? Well, it's happened to me. So if you think it doesn't happen, let me assure you it does. Get three unemployment checks in a month and see if they don't cut off your food stamps as a result, or at least that's the way it worked when I was younger. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same sort of thing happens today, so that you end up sitting in that food stamp office trying to get that money, that benefit again, quote benefit again. It's not a benefit, by the way, but to try and get it again when they cut it off. Here's what I'm trying to get at, though. Taxing the wealthy is a redistribution of that wealth and nothing more. Okay? You don't tax poor people because they have nothing to pay. The poorer they are, the less they have to pay, and the more they stand to benefit or gain from the fact that taxation is occurring. This is redistribution of wealth, pure and simple. And the sad thing is, the way this redistribution of wealth occurs is not anything like optimal as a rule. It's much better if you have a person who sets themselves up in such a way that they can help other people to get out of dire straits or circumstances. And it's even better yet if those people can help the individuals in question to get in positions where they don't need their help anymore. That old saying is really meaningful and really truthful. Give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish, feed him for a lifetime. Right? And I'm sure there are 1,000 different ways that this thing is put, right? And obviously this didn't come from me. It's you're going to hear lots of things that I say that came from other people, and I'll be the first to acknowledge that. But that particular one obviously came from other people. The point is, you can redistribute the wealth of people who are better off all you want, but in the long run, all you're doing is prolonging the agony of a bunch of folks who are poor. Because if you don't teach them how to better themselves, how to put themselves in better positions, all you're doing is giving them somebody else's money for a short time so that they can survive for that period. All right, I'm about out of time today, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. Hope you're having a good day today. Today is Sunday, the beginning of the week for those of us who claim Christ. The beginning of the work week obviously will be tomorrow, today being Sunday the 30th of May of 2021, tomorrow being Monday the 31st of May of 2021. and it will be the beginning of most people's work weeks. Again, if you work on the weekend, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate you being there. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. Yes, I am Kurt. Thank you for everybody who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, or anywhere else. Remember, my favorite platform is Rumble. You can give me a positive rumble on Rumble if you enjoy what I say. You can give me a negative one if you have a problem with it. You can give me a like on YouTube, or a dislike if you want as well. And by the way, on both those platforms, at the very least, you can also make comments of various kinds to, tell me why I'm wrong, or expound on what I'm saying, or whatever you happen to want to do. Again, the subject today has been taxing the rich. Tomorrow we're going to talk about adaptability, which is a horribly important thing, and actually is a part of what I'm getting at with what I'm saying here, although you might be hard put to put the two together. That is the case. Hope things are going well for you, and again, hopefully we'll see you again on tomorrow's Daily Summation. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, May 30th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.